Ooh, topical.
Okay, do the thing with the words.
Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 41. Chris, we continue to say every single week that we are so pleased with people giving feedback. And it really does change the game for us because it gives us topics and things to talk about. And today's episode, thanks to a listener, the entire episode is about a question they asked me, and I thought was a very interesting question to ask. It also is perfect for the end of 2020. So, if you're listening to this right before the new year, Happy New Year in a few days. Right after the new year, we hope that 2021 has started well so far. But the question that we were asked was, how much do you spend on video games?
Yeah, and this came up as a concept of, you guys are always talking about whatever the new games are, and you're always talking about this big long list of games that you play. Like, you must spend crazy bunches of money on video games, right? How much do you guys spend? And so we actually kind of put pen to paper and made a spreadsheet and figured out, how much we really do spend. So now we can talk a little bit on kind of what our spending habits are, what things we value in terms of video games.
I do want to throw out a couple caveats. We did make sure that we got a very specific list. But in that, we did not include any hardware or peripherals that we bought. I think Chris is going to talk about a little bit about PS5. That's obviously like a big purchase. But, in terms of keyboards or monitors or, things like that, we did not include any of that. I know Chris never does this, but I personally did not include anything regarding Twitch or watching video games, only buying or playing my own video games. Didn't include any gaming merchandise. If we bought t-shirts, Super Mario t-shirts or, Mass Effect merch or swag that I may have purchased. Did not include any of that. And then there were a couple subscriptions that I did not put in there that are, I would say, tangential to gaming. The one I listed as an example is I have a few months just tried out Discord Nitro. Didn't include any of those purchases in there because they aren't technically gaming related. They didn't open up a game to me. They didn't provide me with a gaming subscription service. So those aren't included either. The other big point I want to make here is that, I don't need to say it, but 2020 was a different year. And for me specifically, and Chris, I don't know if you want to echo this, I approached games very differently this year. And I think the industry as a whole kind of experienced this, where video games were one of the few remaining pieces of entertainment left that were accessible, that were safe, that were just something you could spend your money on. Really, it's all that was left in a lot of cases. So the amount I spent this year is certainly inflated by that fact. And I am lucky to have been employed all year to be able to spend this amount of money. But I don't think this is representative of what I would have spent in a normal year.
That's interesting because for me, I think this is looking at the list, looking at the number, I'm like, oh, it's a little high. But like looking at the list, I don't know that this is all that out of the norm for me. Like, I don't know that it's really that far off. There's a couple of things that I like EVE Online that I don't think I would have done in a normal year, because Jason wouldn't have done it in a normal year and I wouldn't have played it alone. But other than that, I think a lot of things are fairly on par for me. One thing I will say is that, and I'll mention these as we kind of look through some stuff, is I've started to more creatively use credit card reward points to buy, things that I'm not so sure about the value of. So some of those things I would say I probably spent, $200+ of credit card reward points to get things like EA Play Pro or things like that I wasn't totally sure that I wanted to commit to or wouldn't spend normal money on. So that's just a side note on that. And I also would echo what Jason's point of, I get that this is maybe not normal. We are both very, very fortunate. We both are in good positions to be able to do this. Please don't try to, keep up with us in this regard, because sometimes we don't keep up with us, right? This is not every single year or not everything that we do. So be responsible. Don't just buy video games to keep up with the Joneses.
All right, Chris, I'm going to break out my calculator and crunch some of these numbers. The way I was kind of thinking about doing this is starting with the things that are not specifically games, but that are more subscriptions. And I think you and I both have a couple of these where we get access to a lot of games for essentially a yearly subscription fee. We've talked about these subscriptions in the past. Some of them, I don't really use or want, and we'll I'm going to detail what I purchased for each year. And typically I'm paying yearly for these. Some of them I'm paying monthly, but we'll just I'll summarize here that I pay for EA Play Pro. I pay for a Humble Classic, which is now called Humble Choice. It was called Humble Monthly, but because I've been subscribed so long, Humble Classic. And then the one we talk about honestly the most, and probably the best value on this entire list, is Xbox Game Pass for PC.
Yeah, Jason, have you stayed subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, through the year? Like, is that just a baseline for you, like Netflix?
Yeah. No, I've never stopped. I think our prices are a little different here because of they switched it over and how you paid for a little bit in advance, and I tried to do some magic, and our prices are similar. But yes, for this year through the end of it, I have paid for every month of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually stopped from I think I skipped February through February, March, April, and May, just because I wasn't using it, right? I was finding that I wasn't really playing those games. And the one game that I was playing, Forza Horizon 4 at the time, I had purchased, right? I had just bought it outright. So I didn't need to keep an Xbox Game Pass subscription in order to play it. And I'm actually thinking about doing the same thing with Sea of Thieves, because Sea of Thieves is definitely the game that I play the most on Game Pass. And I'm not sure that I am getting a lot of other value out of Game Pass right now. I tried Forza Motorsport 7 and it was fine. And I guess having Battletoads available to play so that I could get an item in Sea of Thieves was nice. So I might keep Game Pass, but really, I'm not really deriving the full value out of that. And some of that becomes because there's a little bit of overlap with EA Play Pro, which I also have. And there's a little bit of overlap with the things that go through Humble Monthly. So I'm not sure that Game Pass for me is really there, especially because we bought Deep Rock Galactic and then it went on Game Pass, as we mentioned a couple episodes ago. All those things, they're adding these new games, and that's awesome, right? That's great if you don't already have them. But I'm finding that I have a lot of these, and that Microsoft's first-party studios are not putting out enough new things for me to be like, yeah, I've got to have a Game Pass subscription so that I can play the new Gears of War, the new Halo, the new Forza, the new whatever. So I may hit pause coming up here once my kind of prepaid seat kind of ends. I actually bought some things this holiday season with Best Buy, and they offered me as a checkout option. They said, hey, would you like 3 months of Game Pass for $22? I said, oh, well, I mean, now that the price is $10 a month, I suppose I'll take you up on that. So I was able to get a deal there. And then when I went to go enter the code, Microsoft was like, oh, well, if you leave auto payments on, or if you turn auto payments on, we'll give you through April, like an extra 1 month, like an extra month on your 3 months. And I was like, oh, well, then I guess I got 4 months for $20, which is the same $5 a month price as you would have gotten before they raised their prices. So I'm happy about that. I'm very pleased with the way that works. But also on the Game Pass front, right? They just rolled in EA Play non-pro.
I was just going to bring that up to you. This episode's not about convincing you to keep it, but in terms of, this episode is about value, and Xbox Game Pass now including the basic level of EA Play, man, to me, that is an incredible value for $10 a month.
But I already have EA Play Pro, right? And so in the short term, at least, for the next, until my EA Play Pro runs out in, October, November, right? I could just skip Game Pass and not be getting any additional value out of it because I have access to all those EA games. So for me personally, I think that's where my kind of calculus is coming down. And maybe this is just a lot of math and numbers and not all that interesting, but that's where I'm thinking, value is definitely there. Game Pass is a great value if you play the games. And that's the same thing for any subscription, right? Netflix is a great value if you watch shows and movies on it. But if you don't watch it, you're just paying for it, right? And that's how they get you in subscriptions, right? That's why the companies like subscriptions, is because you can end up paying for things that you're not necessarily using, but they're still getting your money.
Yeah, and that's kind of how Humble Classic has been. It's been really hit or miss, right? They're publishing all these games. I pay for it a year in advance. I think you do too. And it's real hit or miss whether you actually take and play the games. EA Play Pro for me is less about whether I play them every month and more about I would have purchased many of the games, not many, probably one or two of the games anyway. So I'm paying $100 a year for that. I would have purchased at least a $60 game, if not the upgraded version of that game. Whatever it is, this year it was probably the Star Wars
Squadrons,
Star Wars, and the other Star Wars one. I would have purchased both of those games anyway, but I got them because I'm already a yearly subscriber. So I think that pays for itself. Yearly Humble Classic, that's a close one. But I like every year. It's a tough decision.
Every year in December, we exchange text messages, usually, on the last Humble Monthly of the year. And we say, hey, it's Humble Day. Like, I don't know if I'm going to keep going. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And every year we end up talking each other into, we're probably going to keep going on this one. And it's a little expensive, right? $140 a year. I don't know what that works out to per month. It's something like $12 a month or so. And it works out, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that there's like 3 of the like flagship games in the Humble Bundle that are really good, that are like these kind of tentpole games that would cost, $40 to $60. And that ultimately, to Jason's point, does pay for it. Again, only if you play the games, which is a whole other thing. But I actually find a lot of value out of some of the smaller indie games where it kind of pushes me over the edge, where I wouldn't necessarily spend, say, $20 on Overcooked 2, for instance, right? Or $25. Mm-hmm. But that was one that was in, I think, the December Humble Monthly, Humble Choice. And so then I just have it, right? And I would like to play that as like a party game. I would like to play that with friends. And I just had been dragging my feet on buying it because I didn't want to, prematurely purchase it or didn't think I would get enough use out of it. And so now this kind of takes that and makes that choice easy. Not saying that that's a great reason to kind of keep this big subscription. I mean, and there are other benefits. There's other games that come along. But really, it always comes down to, oh man, there's this one really good game, and then it kind of lulls off, and then it kind of peaks up again and lulls off a little. So Humble Monthly is very hit or miss. And I think that I always say this, but maybe next year, not going to re-up. But this year, I think I will.
There's 2 other elements to Humble Monthly for me, though. There's the element that you get to, you're buying the game, right? You get to keep it even if you stop paying, which is nice because that is not true of EA Play Pro or Xbox Game Pass. It is truly, software as a service. Once you stop paying, you don't get to keep it. Whereas Humble Monthly, Humble Classic, Humble Choice, whatever you want to call it, once the game's unlocked and you get a CD key for it, right? Well, you get a key for it, and it's in your Steam library, right? It's yours. So that's nice. I do like that about that subscription service. The other thing is, and this is why there are so many like surprise box subscriptions services out there. The first Friday of every month, Chris, it doesn't matter. I'm excited to go see what's in the Humble Monthly, box that month. And there is an element of, I just like that rush, that emotion, that, whatever it is. And I recognize that maybe it's not always worth it. But it does bring me a little bit of happiness or joy each month when I get to go look at what's in that surprise box. So that is an element of it that I do like that. I recognize that I'm paying for that service. But I think it's worth it. So all in all, subscriptions, I'm going to throw another $30 in there that I've spent on some game servers. All in all, it's around $300 a year for me for subscriptions. Well, okay, it's around $300 a year for non-game specific subscriptions. We'll talk about some other things that we did pay monthly for, we do pay monthly for. But in general, for those multi-game subscriptions, I'm paying around $300 a month. Or sorry, $300 a year. Sorry.
Yeah, not per month. That would get a little expensive.
That's too much.
I would say let's stay on the subscription topic, right? So obviously the next one that we've talked about several episodes this fall, World of Warcraft, right, is the seemingly last MMO that actually requires a subscription to play it. And that's something that I have decided that I'm pay for, but I do it in the 6-month chunks, right? So that it's like $72 or something like that for 6 months at a time. So it works out to be $144 a year. I was looking back at my statements. I could not find my statement for the first 6 months of the year. So I'm just going to take credit for only having spent about $80 on World of Warcraft this year, because I really
That's not how money works, but okay.
I really front loaded a lot of that at the end of 2019. But, for the purposes of this tally, I'll just squeak in under the wire there and have my number be less than Jason.
Did you spend any money on the expansion?
No, I pre-ordered it in December 28th, 2019.
Oh, that's okay, fine.
Yeah, so it should be a little bit higher for that one. It should be, another $80 or so for the Epic Edition of Shadowlands, because I decided I wanted. It came with 2 months free of subscription and also some cosmetic stuff that I decided it was worth it. So. And another boost, right? Another character boost. So now I can boost a character to level 50 and only have to do that 50 to 60 grind that we talked about a couple episodes ago in order to get a new character up to max level. So that skips a little bit of time. So that's worth it.
I have not paid for as much time on World of Warcraft, but I have subscribed as well. I am currently subscribed, as we kind of talked about. According to statements and such, I'm at $195 to Blizzard this year. I think that includes some other purchases I've made. I know I've spent roughly $100 on World of Warcraft this year. That includes the subscription. It was a pack. I got 2 months free. I think I got another third month for being recruited by someone. So that is where all that comes from. Yes, I'm confirming right now that yes, I am. I paid for. Oh, apparently I played World of Warcraft at the beginning of 2020 as well, that I don't remember much of.
Oh, yes, I remember you did play for about a month or two, because we were trying to level a little bit and it was too slow.
So I did pay for a couple of months of subscription straight up back in February, March, and April, and then I did buy the expansion that came with a couple months of subscription here in October. So that plus I'm just going to tack it on now for Warcraft 3 when it came out. I did spend about $200 total to Blizzard this year, which I think is pretty similar to you if you would have made your purchases that you made at the end of 2019 in 2020.
Yes, it's probably close. But I've come to find, and going back to the value discussion, right, that I do get that. For me, it's 12-ish, 13, whatever, $12 or $13 a month of value out of World of Warcraft, usually, like on average. So I just kind of take that and say, yeah, that's something that I'm willing to pay for, because it's, it's the price of a new game, especially now with PS5 games costing $70 brand new. This is saying, okay, every 6 months, I'm basically buying one PS5 game to play WoW for the next 6 months. And I've found also for me personally that if I am getting the subscription as a longer term thing, I feel less like I am wasting it if I'm not using it. Right. So if I'm doing a month to month, $15 a month for World of Warcraft, which is also a little bit crazy that it still costs $15 a month. But if I'm doing that, then I feel like I really want to be using that subscription that I'm paying for, because it feels expensive. I mean, it's in the grand scheme of things for me personally, maybe not so crazy, but I feel like I'm like, oh man, I'm got the subscription, I'm paying for it, like I got to use it. Whereas if I go with a longer time frame, I save a little bit of money, and also I don't, like, mental health wise, feel like, I mean, man, I gotta get my money's worth out of this game. It's more like, okay, I'm playing this for fun. Like, I'm not paying for it because I'm not playing it because I've paid for it.
The only other game subscription that I see on the list is EVE Online, which we played for a little bit at the beginning of 2020, a couple months. I think that game is that game $15 a month or $10 a month or something along those lines. I have $20. I think I got some kind of introductory new player rate, but I paid for a couple months of it, and I think you paid for a few more months than I did. But we did play Eve for a little bit, which you can play for free. But the way we wanted to play and the things we wanted to do did require us to subscribe.
Yes, this was a case actually where I just talked about how I like to buy things up front so I don't worry about, feeling like I'm getting my money's worth. This is a case where it kind of burned me. It was something where I should have probably paid more attention to the speculative nature of us playing Eve and that we weren't actually going to stick with it. And I should not have bought 3 months up front for 2 characters. I probably, should have gone with a little bit more conservative, going with the single month kind of a thing. But I it was a better deal per month, right? And I was like, okay, well, this will sustain for a while. And Eve is one of those games where your characters still train if you have your skill queue filled, even when you're not logged on. So I was like, okay, well, then if I ever play Eve again in 5 years, because the last time I had played Eve was 5 years prior, then I'll have these many more skill points that I can use. So it was kind of a flawed logic. But I ended up spending $70 to $80 on Eve subscriptions for those 2 characters for 3 months. And then I used it for probably 2 of those 3 months. But then I absolutely canceled that stuff as soon as I realized that I wasn't going to use it.
I think that's it for subscriptions. I think that's it for like either regular things that we're still paying for or games that required a subscription or that we chose to subscribe to. Where do you want to go next?
One other subscription that I have that Jason doesn't have is that I actually do pay for a couple of WoW tools, like World of Warcraft tools. So Wowhead, which is like the, Wikipedia, or not really wiki, but, the best resource for World of Warcraft things, is kind of an ad-ridden mess as a website. It has lots of auto-playing video, lots of little banner ads. And I really don't like that myself. They have a very reasonable, like $1 a month subscription that you can get to remove ads on that site. So that is something that I actually paid for the first time ever this year. And I think it's been totally worth it. The only thing that's really annoying about it is if you get logged out, then you end up back with all these ads and you have to go log in and find the login button and do all that stuff, which is a little trickier on mobile. But that to me was well worth it. I always say, like, if they have a reasonable price, like I will pay a website to get rid of ads so that I can support them, but also not feel like I'm, being bombarded. And I use an ad blocker. I know ad blockers are a thing. I do use an ad blocker, but in this case, the things that they're showing are not necessarily things that get blocked by normal ad blockers. I mean, I know you can set up custom rules and stuff, but same thing.
And it's nice to support people. Like, it's nice to support the good content creators.
Yeah, so in this case, it's worth it to me to have that. I also pay for one of the simulation services, and I've got that expiring at the end of December. I'm probably going to let that one lapse because I'm not really using it that much, but it's something that lets you do, best in bag gear stuff and all of that. And that's like $12 a year also. So these tools, like when they know kind of what their level of utility to me is, and they only charge kind of what that level of utility should be, I am all about it. But if somebody was trying to sell me a WoW thing for my $15 a month WoW subscription and charge me another $5 to $10 a month, I would say absolutely not. Right? Simulation Craft is one of those things where you can pay for their premium thing, and I've looked into it before, and I think it's like $5 a month or something, and I'm like, that's just way too expensive for a game like that I'm already paying for just to get a little bit better min-maxing on my stats. That's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for things that kind of make my life more convenient when I play this game, but I think that the incremental value compared to me having to think a little harder or look up a different spreadsheet, on Reddit or something, that's only worth a couple dollars to me a month. And especially if I can buy it in a year, right? If I can buy it as the course of a year, then again, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not seeing it come off my credit card statement every month.
Okay. So that's it for what I would consider yearly or monthly kind of costs. Where do you want to go next? Do you want to go Steam? Do you want to go some other things? I mean, I guess Steam is the easiest one, right? I just looked at my Steam history, saw they make it super easy, and saw that I've spent, just over $300 on Steam this year. And it's a range of things, right? From the Destiny 2 expansions to some of the things that I knew I was going to buy, to some of the things that I bought last second on a whim, like Cyberpunk 2077. But there are some things like Jackbox Party Pack 7. Not to brag, but like, I'm known as the Jackbox guy. When you want to play Jackbox, you invite Jason because he's got all the Jackboxes. So when Jackbox Party Pack 7 came out, I knew I was going to buy it. the Rocket League, Rocket Pass is in there when I did have to pay for it. Some cheaper stuff. There's two early access games that I purchased this year. Not for broadcast and Spin Rhythm. I like rhythm-based games. Not for broadcasts seemed it's still in early access. It's a very good story game. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with most of my Steam purchases. $300 is a lot, but I think that's just because Destiny 2 was there, and I did buy both Shadowkeep and Beyond Light in 2020. That and Cyberpunk 2077 is honestly like a large majority of what I've spent on Steam this year.
Yeah, for me, I have some similar purchases to Jason, right? I actually have spent $20 on the Rocket League Rocket Pass because I didn't actually make it this time, so I had to buy another set of credits. But I'm good now, I think, for the next 4 Rocket Passes by my count. So that'll be something I'll skip for 2021. I did buy a Creeper World pack of things, Deep Rock Galactic, Destiny 2 Shadowkeep only because I kind of bought Beyond Light last year and didn't really play it that much. But Jason joined the bandwagon, towards the beginning of 2020. And then my big one, right, is Dota 2, right, and related things for Dota 2. So I, ever since probably 2014 or so, I've bought the Battle Pass for the International ever since they started doing it, really. Which is it started out as this little $10 thing where you could get the levels, right, and you would play the game and it would give you points that you could use to level up your Battle Pass and all of that. And I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past. The last several years have gotten really wrapped up in some of the major goals that they put on there, right? So this year you had to get to level 600 on the Battle Pass, right, to get through to all of the special rewards. And I shouldn't be proud to say it, and I'm not proud to say it, right? But that's something where I've basically strategically bought the opportunities that can get you levels for multi-packs and things. And so that's ended up being about $200 for me on Dota 2, which is pretty expensive.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that I'm not surprised to hear that. And for the amount of time that you kind of get out of it, and I don't know, it seems like that, we talk about value and personally to you, even from the outside, right? $200 on Dota 2 does not surprise me about you. It is something that you talk about a lot. It is something that you and I connect over a lot. It's something that you seem to really enjoy. So again, that's where we kind of have to base this conversation is, yeah, it's a lot, but I don't know what you think. Maybe it's too much, but to me, it's not surprising knowing what I know about you and how you enjoy that game.
Yeah, and for me, there's also a piece of community to it, right? I have several friends who I play Dota with, and we've kind of identified the summer as kind of Dota season, right? Because we don't get into it hardly at all except for during the International, right? And that's something that actually this year they are spilling over into the fall after the International and playing a lot more. And I get invites occasionally, but as we've said all the time, there's too many games going on. I haven't played a lot of Dota since the International, but I do really value the things that I get there and having it's not necessarily having them now, but in 5 years, having the things that were the highest level things or the stuff that was harder to get or took more effort time wise or money wise or whatever in 2020, I will be happy to have had them, I think. It's a little bit silly to talk about that about virtual goods, but it is kind of a little bit of a bragging rights thing, right? It's a little bit of a point of pride amongst a friend group, right? And it sounds silly to say it out loud, but that's something that I do enjoy, I do value. And I don't think, thinking about it more too, it's not more than a flight to somewhere, right? It's not more than, a night or two in a hotel, right? For the number of hours or the amount of enjoyment that I get out of it, I don't think that that's unreasonable. It sounds like a big number, especially when you think about individual games and how many hours you can get out of them. And buy a new game for $60 or $70. This is $200 for a free to play game just for shiny cosmetics. And it's well, yes, you're right, but I do value the things that I get from that. So for me, the Steam total was actually basically the same as Jason's. It was about $340 for me.
The rest of the categories we have listed here are kind of our differences, I would say.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. You want to talk about Ubisoft?
Yeah. So I we were talking about it before the show. I've spent more money on Ubisoft than Chris has. I've purchased essentially two things. It was the Division 2 Warlords of New York expansion. Not exactly sure when that came out, but it looks like my purchase for that was in 2020. And I just recently, Black Friday deal, I purchased Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I could have purchased Valhalla, but I think I will enjoy the story and the setting of Odyssey more. I have never finished a Assassin's Creed game before, so that's why I kind of waited for that one to go on sale. Looks like you barely spent any. I mean, you could just chalk yours up to a rounding error.
Yeah, so I spent $3 on the Division 2 in around the same time, actually, that Jason was buying Warlords of New York, because they had a promotion that said, hey, buy Warlords of New York for $30. And also, if you don't happen to have the base game, you can buy it for $3. So I did the second part, but not the first part. I did not buy Warlords of New York, but I did buy not Destiny 2, the Division 2 for $3.
Looking back now on that, I'm surprised. Like, why? I mean, it was a great, here's the thing. Many games that do this make the expansions cost money and make the base game free. And I guess they just didn't want to do that with the Division 2. They could have said the Division 2 is now free, but you have to pay for Warlords of New York. I guess they were like, no, we have to charge at least $3 for the Division 2. Looking back, it just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. But you lucked out on that one.
Yeah, and I played it for a little while. It really wasn't my game. I don't remember if we've talked about it on the show, but cover-based shooters, I have trouble with the cover-based part of cover-based shooters, right? I just want to kind of stand somewhere and shoot at people and like maybe duck behind a corner, but I don't want to have to press the button to make my character perfectly crouch behind the identified cover. So for me, I just have trouble with that one, and I'm glad I only spent $3 on it, because I really only spent a couple hours playing the game, I think. Also, I think I have mentioned this before, but I was not impressed with the loot system, which is a much bigger debate for a much different time.
Yeah, I liked it. Okay, whatever. The other thing that I have spent money on that you have certainly not spent money on is I am a fan of Warframe. In Warframe, yeah. I am amazed by how little I have spent on Warframe this year, because if we would have looked at 2019, I would have been embarrassed. But for 2020, I bought one of the packs that they had for Warframe, that was not one of their like major packs, but one of their kind of more minor packs that they call Prime Access. Not Prime Access, that's the major one. Prime Vault. And I spent $60 on Warframe this year. I don't think I've gotten value out of that one. I probably shouldn't have done that one. But Warframe is a game where you pay to skip. And you get some quality of life things, but really most of it is just pay to skip, or you get more experience or more credits by paying kind of for booster packs. And when I play Warframe, or pretty much any game that has booster packs, and I don't have the booster packs, oh my god, I just feel like I'm wasting time. So I did buy Warframe. I did buy that pack. I did buy some of the things that I could have unlocked for free, but did not want to spend the time doing. Chris, is there anything on the list that I am missing that you purchased that I did not, that is not the giant elephant in the room?
I will actually mention, you said you had Jackbox included in your Steam totals. I will say that I actually bought the Jackbox 3 through 6 and 7 packs, right? So I did a package of 3 through 6 and then the 7, both directly from Jackbox games, because they were doing a fall sale and then they did a Black Friday sale. So I actually was able to get those for, I want to say something close to $20-ish a piece. So that I probably spent about $50 on those. But when I bought those, I actually used Apple Pay Cash, which I got from my Apple Card, right? I have cash back coming from Apple Card, and I used it to pay for like Apple Music and things, and you get 3% back on that. So that was one of those instances where I used credit card points to buy the Jackbox games. And so now I have Jackboxes 3 through 7, which I think personally at least are the good ones. And I really like 7. So
7's excellent.
7 is very, very good. So I've really enjoyed those. And in other circles, I'm the Jackbox guy, but not Jason's, because Jason is a Jackbox guy.
It's good being the Jackbox guy. You get invited to the Jackbox parties. Looks like, I mean, I'll just throw this in there. Chris and I have played Guild Wars in the past. Looks like we both may have purchased some gems this year, which are the in-game premium currency. I have $50. It looks like you have $50. That's about 4,000 gems. I don't know what it was for. I don't remember, but I like Guild Wars. I don't think that's wasted money.
For me, it was a Mistlock Sanctuary Pass because it came up and I knew I was going to want one based on talking to people. And then I bought another pack of something, some other quality of life improvement thing, nothing cosmetic, just, things that were more utility items. And I still have 1,500 to 2,000 gems kind of waiting to be spent. But I figured it was not a bad investment. That was another one that I actually did with credit card points. So I was like, you know what, whatever, $50, it's fine. I like having sometimes either a balance in my Steam wallet or something like that in Guild Wars, because it, again, takes some of the hemming and hawing for me personally of like, do I want to spend this money? Do I not? I've already spent this money, right? And sometimes you can get a better deal. Like sometimes you get a bigger value. For Steam, one of my big value tricks is Sam's Club actually sells Steam gift cards for 5% off. So you can get like a $50 gift card for $47.50. $50 of value on Steam for $47.50. So you save that $2.50, and that's just free money.
Free money.
Exactly. So then I end up loading up that value onto my Steam account, and then when something comes out, Creeper World 4 or whatever, I can just buy that, and it doesn't hit my credit card, right? It's something I've already spent that money, and so I like that sometimes. That's a good way to go for me. So
that's it for the PC stuff. We'll talk about some other stuff in a second here, but for me, that brings my total to just about $1,050, which again, this year's a little different. I think it's honestly lower than I expected. I was expecting a number closer to 1,500 looking back at everything. But I guess, the actual math works out to about $1,000, which I'm comfortable with. I think, for how much time I put into video games, how much I base my identity on video games, how much I enjoy them, how I share a lot of my social interactions, right? I have a lot of friends around the country that are not in the same place or area than I am. All of that contributes to that $1,000 being worth it for me.
Yep. And so my total is closer to $900, just a little bit less. I have a little bit, looking at the breakdowns, I had less at Blizzard, depending on how you count, I guess. So maybe I'm closer to 1,000 as well. If you add that extra 6 months that was from 2019, that would put me about on par as well. And I'm in the same way. I would echo everything that you said, Jason. I think that it's worth it when you do the math on that, right? That's about $90 a month or so. So if you think about that is as much as you could spend on cable TV, which I don't actually have cable. I would say that all of these things, I get many, many more hours of enjoyment out of it than I do from watching TV. So, I mean, I think that puts it in a little bit of perspective, right? It sounds like big numbers, but when you think of it over the course of an entire year, it's not that bad.
We want to put a little addendum on the show that Chris is a console gamer and I am not.
Yes, Chris does do a little bit more console gaming than Jason. I did, as everyone knows, get a PS5 this year. I was lucky enough to secure a pre-order and get that in hand. So that, of course, if we were talking on the total cost of money spent on video games, that instantly bumps mine up by $500, right? That's the console itself. So, I suppose we'll go into the Chris follow-up aspect here and say that there's $500 on PS5 and then another probably $200 on games for that PS5. And then I was actually looking back through and scouring all of my receipts from various retailers trying to find if I had bought any other like Switch or PS4 games this year, and the only one I could come up with was Final Fantasy Remake for $30 from Best Buy. I had just too good of a deal to pass up between the end. It was the very end of my Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked, which takes 20% off of the new games right away. That's all ended now. It's all rolled off. Everyone who's grandfathered in has now expired. So I had that, that would have gotten me down to $48, and then I had some reward certificates and a $10 pre-order bonus and everything else. So the point is I got the game for $30 on day one, and I thought that was too good of a deal to pass up. And I've played it, and I've really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I think that was well worth it. So I'm sitting at probably around $800 on the PS5 side of things, but a good majority of that is the PS5 and some new games for it, like the console itself and some new games for it. In a typical year, my console spend is probably closer to maybe $100, right? I'll do like a buy two get one at Target, or I'll do just a digital sale that comes up sometime over the year, but I'm not usually going crazy on the console games. PC is my primary.
I want to point out that last line that you have here in the show notes about PlayStation Plus. And I think it's important to bring this up only because this is one of the reasons that everyone says that PC is better than PlayStation. I don't know if that's true, but it does point out that like you're also paying for PlayStation Plus that allows you to play online when that is something that you get for free on PC. I don't know if that $40 is worth. I mean, obviously it's worth it, right? You're paying for it. It you have to have it in some cases to play certain games with your friends. But I wish it wasn't there, right? I don't see any reason for it being there.
I will say the thing that they do with PlayStation Plus is that they give you 2 games a month. They're not always good games, but sometimes they are. They give you 2 games a month as yours to keep as long as you're subscribed, that kind of a thing. And you have to claim them in that month or else you lose them, right? So it doesn't just build up a collection for you. You actually have to go in and go to the PlayStation Store and buy it for $0 as part of your PlayStation Plus subscription. But I've actually gotten a couple of really good games as part of that. And also with the PS5, they have the PlayStation Plus collection, which is, I think, 12 or 15 games from the PS4 generation, including Final Fantasy 15, Detroit Become Human. No, maybe not. Detroit Become Human was included on PlayStation Plus in one a month. I think The Last of Us is on there. God of War is on there, which is a great game. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, Bloodborne. There's a whole bunch of games that some of them I have, some of them I don't. And the ones that I don't, I'm really excited to be able to play on the PS5, even though they're PS4 games. But like you get those all together just because you had PlayStation Plus and you bought a PS5. So yes, it's kind of a pain that you have to pay that subscription in order to be able to play online. And I think that the time for that really should be over, right? I mean, Xbox Gold or Xbox Live Gold should just go away because Game Pass is really the thing now. And I know that Game Pass Ultimate kind of rolls in Xbox Live Gold and all of that. But I think they should just skip that as a standalone thing and say, hey, you should just buy these game subscriptions and then you get these games that you can play with your friends, but online's always free. Because I know some people that have PS4s that canceled their PlayStation Plus because they're like, oh, I'm just not using it, right? I'm not playing with friends. I'm not doing this stuff and I don't care about the free games. And I'm like, okay, well, that's up to you. But I do get enough value, especially because when I do PlayStation Plus, I only buy it when it's on a Black Friday sale, and you can buy a 12-month card, which is normally about $60. You can get it for $40-ish. And I actually, earlier in the fall, before Black Friday, found a deal for like $34 for a year. So I bought like 3 years of PlayStation Plus, and I just loaded it up.
Oh, jeez. So
I think I'm paid up through like summer 2022 or something like that. So that's enough for me. I'm happy to do that, or not happy to, but I'm willing to do that because it does come with those games, right? And like Bug Snacks, right? That was a PS5 PlayStation Plus game, and I certainly would not have bought Bug Snacks on my own. And side note, I still haven't, as of time of recording, finished Bug Snacks, so I don't know what everyone is talking about. But
good callback. Let me ask a hypothetical here. Would you still pay for PlayStation Plus if it was not required for online play? Would you pay for it for just the game subscription?
In its current form, probably not, because it would be too expensive for what it is, because it only gives you a couple of games a month. And typically those games are not quite the right quality level, I would say. Interestingly enough, Rocket League started as a PlayStation Plus game, and I missed it.
Yes.
I actually I probably had a PlayStation Plus subscription. I might not have. I might have skipped it at the end of the PS3, but like, because I didn't have a PS4 right at the beginning. So that actually may have been something that I missed because of that. But I do not. I actually ended up with a disc copy of Rocket League later because it was on a Christmas list or something, that I had to like put the disc into PS4 to play Rocket League on the PS4. Now it's free to play, so you can just download it. But yeah, I missed that one. But those are the kinds of gems you can get from things like this, right? Where there's a breakout hit, and Fall Guys is the latest of those. I don't personally care for Fall Guys all that much, but it was free on PlayStation Plus in August or July, and that's why there's even anybody playing it at all, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So I don't know. I would consider it. I would definitely think about it, especially if it was cheap. Like if it was only a couple bucks a month, I would definitely think about it. But it's certainly not the level of value of an Xbox Game Pass or anything like that. I would like it to not be required for people to play online, so that more people would be willing to play PlayStation games online with me. But such is life.
This has been a really numbers heavy podcast, which is really hard to do. I hope, we've answered the question, how much we spend on video games. I hope kind of gives a rundown of what Chris and I value, and what we think is worth it, what we don't think is worth it, and where we're really on the fence on. So I hope you kind of enjoyed this. I'll call it a high level analysis. I think, in the future, we may get deeper on the value of certain subscriptions or certain games specifically. I think we could probably do a whole episode on Xbox Game Pass and its value and how it's changing over time and all of that. So if you're interested in something like that, let us know. We talked about a ton of games today that were all from 2020 or even previous, and we have episodes on many of them where we talk about the specifics of the game, what we do and don't like, or anything about them. If you'd like to listen to any of those older episodes, you can visit us at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com. There you'll also find a link to contact us. So if you have questions about any of the numbers we said or any of the subscriptions that we're kind of talking about here, or you just kind of want to give us your opinion, please go to the website and contact us.
Yeah, I would love to hear what people think. I know that it's kind of dangerous to ask for opinions on the internet, but I would love to know if people are also, subscribed to things or if they think that it's worth it to kind of get these subscriptions, things like Game Pass, things like Humble Choice, those kinds of things. So let us know what you think. We record and publish an episode every other week or so. If you've really enjoyed this episode, all we ask is that you share it with some friends, tell them, hey, these guys spend way too much money on video games. You should listen to them talk about it. Just get the word out and help us kind of grow the audience.
Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next year.